In the vast wilderness of America's national parks, people vanish without a trace. Not just a few people, thousands. Many are never found. Others turn up in impossible locations or under circumstances that defy explanation. One man has spent the last decade documenting these disappearances, and he's discovered something disturbing. These aren't random events. There are patterns, bizarre, unexplainable patterns that connect cases across decades and thousands of miles. This is the story of the missing 411. The term missing 411 comes from David Paulides, a former police detective who began investigating disappearances in national parks after a conversation with a park ranger who approached him anonymously. These aren't typical cases of people getting lost. These are cases where experienced hikers vanish in seconds, sometimes right in front of companions. Where search and rescue operations with hundreds of people, dogs, and infrared equipment find nothing, not a footprint, not a scent trail, nothing. And then there are the bodies that do turn up, in places they couldn't possibly have reached on their own, or with their clothes removed and folded neatly beside them in freezing temperatures. Let's look at the patterns Paulides has identified. Paulides has identified several geographical clusters where disappearances occur with unusual frequency, including Yosemite, Rocky Mountain National Park, Mount Rainier, and the Great Smoky Mountains. But it's not just where people vanish, it's who vanishes that's truly strange. The victims often fit specific profiles. Young children between 2 to 12 years old, elderly people with health issues, highly educated adults, people with disabilities. Many disappearances happen near granite boulder fields or bodies of water. Bad weather often moves in immediately after someone vanishes, and perhaps most disturbing, search dogs either can't pick up a scent at all, or they track the missing person to a certain point and then act confused or frightened. Let's look at some specific cases that highlight just how strange these disappearances can be. Dennis Martin. In 1969, 6-year-old Dennis Martin was playing hide-and-seek in the Great Smoky Mountains. His father watched him hide behind a bush, took his eyes off him for just a few seconds, and Dennis was gone. Within minutes, a massive search was launched. Green Berets were even brought in to assist. Despite one of the largest search operations in U.S. history, no trace of Dennis was ever found. Just 15 minutes after Dennis disappeared, a family hiking 5 miles away reported seeing a wild man carrying something over his shoulder. The FBI didn't connect this report to Dennis's disappearance until much later. The area where Dennis vanished was so small that searchers were practically shoulder to shoulder. How does a 6-year-old boy vanish without a trace in those circumstances? Stacey Aris. In 1981, 14-year-old Stacey Aris was on a horseback trip in Yosemite. Her father watched her walk about 100 yards toward a lake, still in clear view, when she simply vanished. Despite helicopters, mounted patrols, and dog teams, the only thing ever found was her camera lens cap. The dogs couldn't pick up any scent at all. It was as if she had never been there. Now let's talk about some of the truly inexplicable elements that connect many of these cases. Missing clothing. In a surprising number of cases, when bodies are found, the victim's clothing, particularly shoes and pants, are missing. Sometimes, the clothing is found neatly folded nearby, even in freezing conditions. Paradoxical undressing is a known phenomenon in hypothermia cases, but it doesn't explain cases where the clothing is found neatly folded, or where only specific items are removed. Impossible locations. Many victims are found in areas that would be physically impossible for them to reach on their own. A 65-year-old man with Parkinson's disease went missing in Mount Rainier National Park. He was found 2 weeks later, 19 miles away, in an area so remote that even search teams had difficulty reaching it. Experts said it would have been physically impossible for him to travel that distance through that terrain. Missing time. Some people who are found alive report experiencing missing time, periods they can't account for. They describe being in one location, then suddenly finding themselves miles away with no memory of how they got there. So what could explain these bizarre disappearances? Criminal activity. Some suggest these disappearances are the work of serial killers or organized criminal groups. But this doesn't explain the strange patterns or how bodies appear in impossible locations. Natural explanations. Others believe these cases can be explained by natural factors, disorientation, animal attacks, accidents. But the cases Paulides has documented specifically exclude those with obvious natural explanations. Government cover-up. Some believe the government knows what's happening but is covering it up. While the National Park Service's reluctance to keep comprehensive missing persons statistics is suspicious, a massive multi-decade cover-up seems unlikely. Paranormal explanations. Some suggest these disappearances are the work of cryptids like Bigfoot or skinwalkers. Many indigenous cultures have legends about entities in the wilderness that take people. Natural portals. Perhaps the most fascinating theory involves the idea of natural portals, or thin spots, between dimensions. Proponents point to the granite-rich environments where many disappearances occur, suggesting that certain geological formations might create electromagnetic anomalies. The missing 411 phenomenon remains unexplained. What we know for certain is that people continue to vanish in America's wilderness under circumstances that defy conventional explanation. Whether it's something natural we don't yet understand, or something beyond our current comprehension, I can't say. What I do know is this: if you go hiking in America's wilderness, stay close to your companions. Don't wander off alone. And if you hear something unusual or feel suddenly disoriented, head back to populated areas immediately. Because whatever is happening out there in the wilderness, it's been happening for decades, and it shows no signs of stopping. If you enjoyed this video or learned something new, please like, subscribe, and share.